Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
It's the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Prograis.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 318 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as ever by former heavyweight world title challenger himself, Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing good, my man. How about you?
Always good when speaking with you, Eddie. That's the truth. We're going to jump straight into the review part of the show here. We're going to start on Friday, November 12th at York Hall, Bethnal Green, the mecca of British boxing. Over here, heavyweight David Adelaide with a win now, 8-0, a 4-round retirement win against Dominic Musil, who's now 6-4. Musil down in the 4th round and retired on his store at the end of that 4th there. So David Adelaide now 8-0. Moving out now to the Leeds United FC banqueting suite in Elland Road. Over here, Leeds' son, you may as well say. It's between him and Josh Warrington. But Jack Bateson, now 15-0, a unanimous decision over 10 against Ramez Mahmood, who's now 11-2. That one was for the vacant English super bantamweight title. Bateson cut, I believe, on his right and left eye and had a point deducted in round 9, but still managed to win unanimously. Like I say, the judges there, Phil Edwards, John Latham and Terry O'Connor, referee Steve Gray. On the undercard, Darren Tetley with a win now, 21-2, a points win over 6 against Evgeny Vazem, who's now 9-17. Ellis Hopkins as well with a win now, 2-0. I think she's trained by Asgi, I believe, part of or former part of Team Fury. Ellis Hopkins, like I say, 2-0. She beat Claudia Vi, who's now 3-34 with a draw. Moving out now to Germany, the Cuban former heavyweight, now cruiserweight, I think, Mike Perez, now 26-3 with a draw. It was his 30th pro fight, a TKO in round 6 there against Jose Ulrich, who's now 17-5. On the undercard, former foe of Dave Allen, Lenroy Thomas, now 25-5 with a draw, a TKO in round 4 against Marcos Antonio Amalda, who's now 21-11. What else do we have on that card? I don't think anything else. Moving out now to the Sky Dome in Coventry. This one was on Channel 5. I've got to say, I didn't actually watch this card. I know there was some controversy with the main event. River Wilson Bent now 10-0 with a draw. Tyler Denny now 13-2 with 3 draws. A technical draw in round 7 of a scheduled 10 there for the vacant English middleweight title. The bout was declared a it went to the cards basically at the time of the stoppage, and this was because there was a cut that opened up on River Wilson Bent's I think it was his eye, and again, I haven't seen this, but from what I'm hearing, apparently a cut opened up. I think it should have been ruled as a knockout because I don't think it was a head clash, but I think the referee Ian John Lewis deemed it as a head clash, and I think the replays showed otherwise. If I'm getting that horribly wrong, then I am very sorry. I didn't see it. That's what I've heard. Again, if I'm wrong, feel free to correct me. I'm happy to be corrected if I'm wrong, but apparently that is what went down there. So River Wilson Bent, from what I'm hearing, very fortunate, very lucky to still have his O intact. On the undercard, Shakan Pitters now 17-1, a TKO in round 8 against Reece Cartwright. Again, I've heard that was a cracking fight. Haven't had time to see it. He's now 23-2, Mr. Cartwright. That one was for the vacant WBC International Light-Heavyweight title. The two Irish brothers, Stephen McKenna and Aaron McKenna, both with wins here. Aaron McKenna with a points win over 8 against Gabriel Gorbix, who was down in the first round but managed to go the full 8 rounds. Aaron McKenna now 13-0. Stephen McKenna now 10-0. A KO in the very first round against Richmond Jarbeng, who's now 31-5 with a draw. Casey Benjamin as well with a win, a TKO in round 5 against Andreas Meyer. He's now 14-1 with a draw, Casey Benjamin. Also on the card, Idris Virgo now 11-0 with a draw, a points win over 6 against Gregory Trenell. And Mick Hennessy Jr. 8-1 with a draw, a points win over 6 against Ivan Negach, who's now 12-21. Tommy Welch as well, son of Scott Welch. He's now 6-0, a TKO in the first round there against Christian Kirillov, who's now 5-11 with a draw. Flown through that one there. Moving out now to the Sheffield Arena in Yorkshire, United Kingdom. This one was on DAZN. Oh my gosh, it hurts me to say it. Let's start with the undercard. Good win for Dante Dixon, who's now 6-0. A points win over 8 against Jordan McCorry, now 19-8 with a draw. Jordan McCorry, a bit of a gatekeeper, I guess, on the domestic scene. He's been in there with some of the top boys domestically. He's come up short most of the time. But people tend to not really fight him unless they've had about 10 fights, 12 fights, something like that. For Dante Dixon to get in there just 5-0, for me, he gets a lot of respect for taking that step up there. And he dealt with Jordan McCorry, to be honest. It was always going to be a little bit rough. A few questions asked of Dante Dixon. Jordan McCorry, with that experience, it was always going to show. And yeah, he had a point deducted in the 6th round, Jordan McCorry, and the final scorecard from Howard Foster, 77-73 over 8 rounds there. So Dante Dixon, the winner, now 6-0, like I say. Good stuff for him. A fight on the undercard between two undefeated fighters. We had James Flint, 9-0 with a draw, loses over points, or over 10 rounds on points, to Dom Hunt, who's now 8-0 there for the vacant Central Area welterweight title. Terry Harper, she was upset. Boy, oh boy, she loses her WBC and IBO World Female Super Featherweight titles to, I thought her name was Alicia Baumgardner, but I believe it's Alicia Baumgardner, now 11-1. Now, of course, the new WBC World Female Super Featherweight Champion. She said she'd knock Terry Harper out, and she did. 4th round TKO. Terry Harper now 11-1 with a draw. Very shocking. Not many people felt that this was going to happen. A few people, I guess, a certain crowd of people on Twitter were backing Baumgardner to win, but most people were heavily favouring Terry Harper, including Michaela Mayer, who of course is from the United States. She wasn't backing her fellow countrywoman in that one. She felt that Terry Harper would outbox her. She didn't think that Alicia's power was real, despite everyone talking about her power. And it showed here. She seemed to have that power that a lot of women don't possess, especially at those lower weights. Very good win for Baumgardner, I've got to say. It would be great to have her on the podcast at some point in the future, but fantastic for her. The perfect stoppage as well from the referee. I want to say it was Mark Lyson. I think it was Mark Lyson, but she hit Terry Harper with a punch that stiffened up her legs, Harper's legs, and she kind of seemed to turn and swivel with her arms down. It was almost as if she was knocked out while standing up. Her eyes were closed, she was stood up all stiff, and it did remind me of the punch that Povetkin hit David Price with just before he hit him with that big left hook that he didn't really need to take. He was gone on his feet. He was asleep on his feet, and that is what happened there to Terry Harper. And the referee jumped in straight away and didn't let her take another punch, really. I think she might have took one, just a half punch. But yeah, very good stoppage from Mark Lyson, and he grabbed a hold of her, stopped it straight away. Perfect stoppage. But yeah, like I say, some people felt that Baumgardner's power was a myth. She predicted it, she delivered. There's a rematch clause, of course, but I'm not so sure that Terry Harper's going to take it because she lost every second of the fight there. Yeah, gutted for her. I quite like Terry Harper and she's got a cool story and the rest of it, but yeah, man, Baumgardner, I want to see her go back and take on someone like a Maeva Hamadouche. Imagine that. Or someone like a Michaela Mayer. It seems like Michaela Mayer and Terry Harper, that fight seems like it's lost now. It's a big shame. Chris Billum-Smith with a win, now 14-1, a unanimous decision over 12 against Dylan Bregian. I expected a little bit more from Chris Billum-Smith. I thought he'd probably stop this guy here, but it was another defence there of his EBU European Cruiserweight title. So yeah, marches on Mr. Billum-Smith. And the main event, Kid Galahad, now 28-2. He was knocked out in round 6 by Kiko Martinez, the former world champion from Spain. 43-10 with 2 draws, his record now. It was 4, of course, Galahad's IBF World Featherweight title. It was his first defence of the title after looking quite sensational last time out against Jazza Dickens. He was cut early on as well, Kiko Martinez. I think it was round 3. Galahad down late in the 5th round and then completely knocked out with the first punch of round 6. He was in total control, Kid Galahad, and I'm just staggered. I still can't quite believe what happened. It took me a while. I watched it live and I sat there for a few moments in disbelief. Like, I know boxing can be shocking at times, but this is as shocking as it can get. I mean, let's have it right here. We're talking about 35-year-old Kiko Martinez, a man whose best days are well and truly behind him. I mean, last time this guy was a world champion was back in 2014, early part of 2014, I think it was. So that's 7 years ago. You know, he got dethroned by Carl Frampton, and then he came back, got knocked out quick against Scott Quigg in 2 rounds, came back and got knocked out by Leo Santa Cruz, had a close fight with Josh Warrington, come back, got knocked out by Gary Russell Jr., you know, had the close fight with Zelfa Barrett, and then he gets in with Kid Galahad, who was absolutely expected to batter him, and he was battering him. He was winning every single flipping second of a round, you know, he was in total control. And you know, another thing that I thought of as well during the fight is that it obviously wasn't too long prior to this fight that he arguably beat Zelfa Barrett, and that fight took place at 130, and Barrett's a big 130, but he looked lost at sea in this fight here at 126 against a smaller guy. But obviously the style of Galahad, being a fluid switch hitter, it gave him so many problems, and he was cut. Like I say, I looked at the in-play betting and it was 1 to 100 for Kid Galahad to win. So about 3 rounds in, I looked at the betting. You'd have to put down £1,000 to get £10 back. That's how sure the bookies were that Galahad would win. And like I say, this is the kind of upset that comes around probably once every 10 years. He drops Galahad in the 5th round with the last punch of the round. Galahad, luckily, was able to get up and not have to take another punch before the bell went. He went back to his corner. He had the 60 seconds in between rounds, and it simply wasn't enough. He comes straight back out and got knocked out with the first punch of round 6, which, by the way, was exactly the same shot. I'm not sure if he's dehydrated at the weight. Something looked awfully wrong, but this was a terrible Saturday night for British boxing. 2 British world champions on the same card, both knocked out by underdog challengers. Awful. And I'm gutted for Kid Galahad, friend of the show. He's had a career full of ups and downs, really. Finally become champion. Had a cherry-picked easy defense, really. I think he was ranked number 15 or something, Kiko Martinez. He hadn't had, a big win or anything like that on paper for many years, and some people really scratching their heads on how he even became in the top 15, and he got there, and now he's back to being world champion, which again, I still cannot quite believe it. I still feel like I'm dreaming. Moving out now though to the Footprint Center in Phoenix, Arizona, USA. This one was on Showtime. David Benavidez with a win, now 25-0, a TKO in round 7 against the very, very tough Kyrone Davis, who'd never been stopped. He has now been stopped. He is now 16-3 with a draw. He destroyed him, really. Benavidez. He destroyed Davis systematically. The switching of stances, the big hooks to the head and the body. We know that Benavidez carries power in both hands. He's got the speed as well. He's such an exciting fighter. And for me, one of the best to watch in the world. And not just has he got the exciting style, he is really one of the best fighters in the world, period. I think he's a savage when he's in the squared squared circle. I think I'm messing that up. Is that the right saying? I don't know. When he's in the ring anyway, he's a savage. But yeah, like I say, credit to Davis for the heart he showed us. He was a late replacement. He's not really a 168 pounder. I think he only had 2 weeks to prepare. He jumped in, and good stoppage as well from the corner. I think it was Breadman or whatever I think his corner man is. Good stoppage. He was taking a real beating. And after the fight, Benavidez called out Canelo. He called Big Charlo a name I'm not going to repeat. He called him a PUS, and you know the rest of it. He called him one of them. I'd love either of those fights for Benavidez. I'd love to see him in with Jamal Charlo. I'd love to see him in with Canelo. He probably is the biggest threat to Canelo's throne. Yeah, I'd love any of those fights, and I'd definitely pick him to beat Charlo, by the way. But what a fighter he is, and he's a friend of the show. He's a very, very cool dude. He can fight, he can talk, he's got the whole package, really. He just needs to keep on track. He's been in trouble outside of the ring. That's where he's lost his title twice, outside of the ring. And remember, a little factoid, just for those that don't know, he is, as far as I'm aware, the only top fighter in boxing who's never lost a fight in his life. Yes, I mean amateur and pro. The guy has never lost a fight in the amateurs or the pros. That's quite remarkable there. David Benavidez. His brother, though, was on the undercard, Jose Benavidez Jr. He was able to get a draw over 10 rounds, a majority draw against Francisco Torres, who's now 17-3 with a draw. Jose Benavidez 27-1 with a draw. If I'm not mistaken, on fight week, I'm sure I saw something that I think Terence Crawford said his hardest fight, his hardest challenger was Jose Benavidez Jr., which I found it a little bit hard to believe because he's had some closer fights, I think, Terence Crawford. I remember he struggled to get Benavidez out of there, but he did eventually get him out of there. But I'm not sure what that was based off of, but maybe I'm getting that wrong, but I'm sure I read that somewhere. But yeah, a lot of people feeling like he was gifted a draw here against Francisco Torres, who I expected him to probably knock him out. I think he'd been stopped a couple of times, had a bit of an inflated record. So yeah, quite surprised to see it go all 10, and especially the way it went. Like I say, a lot of people felt that Benavidez didn't even deserve a draw here, and he was very lucky to not have another loss. He'd been out of the ring, I think, for over 3 years. Perhaps it was a bad opponent to come back to. We shall see. He needs to get back active. So the final thing that's happened from the weekend gone, Saturday the 13th of November at the Honda Center in California, USA. Over here on the undercard, a win for William Zepeda, now 24-0, a KO in round 4 against John Moralde. That one was for the WBA Continental America's lightweight title. That's about it really for the undercard, to be honest. Let's go to the main event. Jaime Munguia, now 38-0, a unanimous decision over 12 against Gabriel Rosado, now 26-14 with a draw. It was for the WBO Intercontinental Middleweight title. I expected it to go this way. I predicted a Munguia win on points. It was a good fight. Some people said it was going to probably be fight of the year. It could have been fight of the year in terms, going into it. I think a lot of people felt this could potentially be fight of the year. Not many people could disagree with that. I'm not so sure I'd say it was fight of the year, but it was still a really, really good fight. And Gabriel Rosado has been in good fight after good fight for many years. Just not good enough really from him in the end, Eddie. He tried his best. He perhaps hurt Munguia a few times. It was a war like every Rosado fight and every Munguia fight, really.
Without a doubt. I know Gabe. I've seen Gabe several times fight, and it seems like even if the fight in the beginning or in early parts seems a bit tactical from him, it always ends up in some way being a war. You know what I mean? And it's just, it's just his default. I guess he falls into that almost every single time. But, it's what people love about him. It's what people love to see. And as far as Munguia, this is maybe not my first time seeing him. I might have seen him before. But I was happy with what I've seen, obviously. And these guys are action fighters, and it's awesome to see boxing like this is just, especially at the high level when you see skills and excitement, and blood and guts. It's just a lovely thing to watch. And as far as Gabe, sometimes it's a tough thing for me because I was watching the fight early on, and he has more game than most people really understand. Like he can box. He can box a little. It's just he's always pulled into the firefight because that's just what what gets him going. You know what I mean? And I had a conversation with his former trainer, and I guess they're still close. They still talk, and he's a great boxer. Mine is Billy Briscoe. So I'm talking with him, and he was saying, the Gabe's issue is even if he starts out with the right mindset and with the right game plan, as soon as he gets hit, all of a sudden it's fight time, it's go time. You know what I mean? All that stuff goes out the window, and it's just like I think even though Munguia I guess could be considered the better boxer in the fight, I still think Gabe would have benefited and maybe would have landed those bigger punches. I think if he had stayed a little bit more with the boxing aspect and not tried to so much fight fire with fire, it would have gave him more of an opportunity to catch him slipping. But fair play to Gabe still fought a good fight. It was exciting. I don't necessarily agree. I think he won when like he was saying the fight was it was good, but I think he was losing rounds, and he needed to either hurt him or drop him or something to turn the tide and get a foothold in it. And it was just great fight, exciting fight. Where do they go from here? I think Gabe's stock is always high because he always gives a great account of himself, but I just don't know who he's gonna fight next in this situation. As far as Munguia, he's got a good future. He's got some nice fights that he can line up, and I'm looking forward to them all.
And moving out now to the final card of the review part of the show. This one took place at the Kudos Bank Arena in Sydney at Olympic Park, New South Wales, Australia. Over here, Tim Tszyu, now 20-0, a unanimous decision over 12 rounds against Takeshi Inoue. First time he's gone 12 rounds, Tim Tszyu pretty much won it by shutout across the board there for the WBO Global and WBO Asia Pacific Super Welterweight titles. So good stuff for him there, going the 12. I actually thought he probably would go to 12. So tough guy is Takeshi Inoue, now 17-2 with a draw. Like I say, 20-0, Mr. Tim Tszyu. That is it though for the review part of the show. Just before we wrap up part one, the final thing for us to do before we welcome our special guest, it is now time to thank our sponsor. This podcast is sponsored by Manscaped, but the opinions expressed are those of myself and former heavyweight world title challenger Eddie Chambers. Now, as I'm sure you all know, the holidays are coming round very, very soon. This year, Manscaped have the gift that keeps on trimming. Santa's beard isn't so appealing when it's coming out of your trousers, and that's why Manscaped, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming, have you covered this holiday season. It's available in your country. If you're listening to this, UK, US, it's available in multiple countries, including the UK and US. Join the 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped to keep their trees trimmed and ornaments polished. Remember, go to manscaped.com and use the promo code BoxHard for 20% off plus free shipping. It's time to kill two birds with one trimmer and get yourself and your lady a gift. I'm of course talking about the Manscaped Performance Package 4.0. Remember, inside that performance package you'll find the signature lawnmower, the 4.0 lawnmower. This electric trimmer has proprietary advanced skin-safe technology to reduce cuts on your nuts. It's also waterproof, so you can use it in the shower. It's like a gift to your partner with less mess. The Manscaped Performance Package 4.0 also includes the Crop Preserver and the Crop Reviver, an anti-chafing ball deodorant, moisturizer and toner. Myself and Eddie absolutely love this stuff. This hygiene bundle will also come with a pair of Manscaped anti-chafing boxers that is the perfect wrapping for your presents. The Manscaped Performance Package comes with all the tools to clean up his delicate places. Included in this package as well is the Weed Whacker, the ear and nose hair trimmer, which is waterproof as well and uses a 9,000 RPM motor-powered 360-degree rotary dual-blade system. Nobody, not even Santa, wants hairs under their chimney. Manscaped is going beyond the groin with their new refined cologne as well, which offers a light yet masculine, pleasing fragrance that will leave your lady on the naughty list this year. The cologne, by the way, I've tried it, is absolutely brilliant. I'm not really huge on aftershaves, cologne, stuff like that. I'm not really into loads of different smells, but this is completely different to any other fragrance I've ever smelt. So I'm actually using this stuff all the time. It's made with hypoallergenic ingredients that are vegan, which I'm sure a lot of the vegans are happy about, including yourself there, Eddie. Cruelty-free, dye-free. This stuff, honestly, is absolutely brilliant. I've also tried the foot spray as well. I just want to throw that in there as well. The foot spray, it also smells of the rest of their products, but it's kind of got that minty, kind of fresh scent, mixed in with it. This, honestly, their products are absolutely second to none. And again, you've got to visit their website, www.manscaped.com. Use the promo code BoxHard for 20% off plus free shipping. We absolutely love Manscaped products. We love our partnership with Manscaped. They are fabulous. So go over there and check their whole website out, to be honest with you. It's the time to go on there. There's a Black Friday sale coming up. Do not miss that. Use the promo code. As I said, you will not be disappointed. This is the time to gift these products to yourself. You can buy a gift for yourself. You can buy a gift for your friends, for your dad, for your brother, for your sons, for anyone. This stuff is fabulous, believe me. But that is it, though. We are now wrapping up part one by welcoming our sole guest on this week's podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former IBF, Lineal, Ring Magazine and two-time WBC Light-Heavyweight champion of the world. It is, of course, Mr. Chad Dawson. Chad, welcome to the show, my man.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Hey, I'm excited to have you here. It's excellent. So, Chad, I'd like to start with the same way I start all these kinds of interviews, really. What's your earliest memory of first ever putting on boxing gloves as a child?
Oh, first memory. Man. I can remember, I'm originally from South Carolina, so I can remember being like maybe 3 or 4 years old, running around with boxing gloves on. Because my father was a fighter, so, me and my brother, we always boxed each other and played around doing that. But the earliest memory I can remember is like when I was like 4 or 5 years old. Always knowing that I wanted to be a fighter. From the time I can remember, I just wanted to be a boxer.
Yeah, no, I've heard many stories like that. Everyone seems to start young in the living room with the gloves and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how it happened.
And of course, you boxed as an amateur. Am I right in saying you had around 80 fights as an amateur? What's your favorite memory from your days as an amateur, Chad?
Oh, those are the best days, man. And then, when you turn pro, it's like everything, all the fun goes away. It turns to business. So.
Yeah.
But my best memory, I would say, leaving the country and going to fight in the Junior World Olympics. I won a bronze medal in the under 19 World Championships. I think that was my best memory because that was my first time leaving the country, and we got to experience a different culture over there. Just hanging out and getting to fight other good amateur fighters from around the world. So that was like my best memory.
Excellent, man. And as we move on to your pro career, you made your pro debut August 18th, 2001 at the Mohegan Sun in Connecticut. It only took you 2 rounds to get rid of your opponent, Steve Garrett. Do you remember much about your debut, Chad? Any nerves perhaps going in?
I remember everything. I remember the day of. I remember the morning getting up, and I was at the time I was living with my amateur coach. I stayed the night at his house that night to get ready for the fight the next day of my pro debut. And I just remember it was a hectic day, just getting prepared, getting ready, trying to get my mind ready, trying to, make sure I got everything before I get to the casino to get ready for the fight. Family and friends there, everybody excited about my pro debut. So, and actually my pro debut, I had a good turnout. I think I had about maybe 200 people show up for me. So it was a good experience, great. Of course I was nervous. It was my first fight, and it went good. I got the guy there in 2 rounds, and it was history from there.
And I want to jump forward to December 10th, 2004. At this point, you're 15-0 with 10 KOs. You made that huge step up when you fought former WBA junior middleweight world champion Carl Daniels. Now, obviously, Carl at the time had a record 49-4. You become, though, the quickest man ever to stop him when you did so in round 7. Tell me what you remember about that fight. Obviously, a brilliant win for just someone of yourself, 15-0 at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I was itching for. I wanted to be a main event fighter so bad, and I remember they called me, and then they had to fight for me. They said the guy went the distance with Bernard Hopkins, and he's a good fighter. So I was up for the challenge, and I just went out there. I think that was the time when I was coming into my own as a pro and as a young man. So I was getting stronger after every fight and getting better after every fight. So, and that fight, he caught me on a good night. And that night I was just, it was that night where I came out of my shell and I was just, ready for anybody.
Yeah, and what an excellent win, like I say. And let's jump forward once again. After beating Carl Daniels, you won another 5 fights in a row. This brings us into 2006. You boxed a man who had such an up-and-down career, former world title challenger Eric Hardin. You were down in the first round. Tell me what you remember about that fight and, of course, how it felt to be on the floor. I know it was the flash. Go on.
There's a good backstory behind that.
I'm here for it. Let's go.
So, Eric Hardin is from, I think he's really from Philly, but he was living at the time, he was living in Hartford, Connecticut. I'm from New Haven, Connecticut. So, growing up in the amateurs, I knew of Eric. I got to train with him a couple of times. I kind of looked up to him because he was southpaw too. So I kind of looked up to him as a fighter, as a professional fighter. And then I remember one summer he called me. I think I was maybe 8-0 or 9-0 as a pro, and they called me for training camp. He was ready to fight Tarver, so they needed some southpaw work. So they called me for training camp, to come up and spar with him. And I went up, and I remember the first day of sparring, the first sparring session of the day, he didn't. The first day I got in, right, we didn't go to the hotel or nothing, but they just wanted us to spar as soon as we got there. So I remember putting on my stuff, getting ready, and getting there and sparring. I wasn't in shape. I wasn't in that great shape. I was just coming in the camp to work with him. Got in there, he beat the crap out of me the first day. I mean, he didn't hold back or nothing. And then we sparred, I think, 3 or 4 more times. But I got stronger and stronger after every session. It got better and better. But then I remember they called me for the fight and said that we're gonna fight Eric Hardin, and I was like, oh wow. But this was maybe 2 or 3 years after that. I had a good momentum going. In my career, I was winning fights. People were starting to know who I was, and I remember they made the fight, and I mean we had an interview on the phone, and he was talking mad crap. He was talking about how he was going to beat me up like he did me in training camp and all this stuff like that. So that made for a good fight. That camp broke me out of my shell. The night of the fight, first round, he drops me in the first round. It's kind of like a flash knockdown. He would have jabbed right on the button, right on the chin. I went down, but all that did was wake me up. That's all that did. That just ignited more fire up under me, and I went out there and I beat the brakes off of him.
Yeah, you did. Like I say, only a flash knockdown, as you said. Walked into the camp. You come back and won the fight. No, brilliant backstory. That was really interesting. The very next fight after that was the first big one, February 3rd, 2007 at the Silver Spurs Arena in Florida. You challenged the undefeated WBC Light-Heavyweight world champion at the time, Tomasz Adamek. You're able to outpoint him unanimously over 12 rounds. You become world champion. Tell me about the fight and what it meant to you to become a world champion.
Oh, it meant everything. I remember watching Tomasz Adamek fight. I think it was what's the guy, Briggs. I remember watching that fight on HBO, sitting around with my friends watching that fight on HBO. I remember watching this light heavyweight who was a big puncher, strong guy. And I remember watching the fight, and I'm like, wow, I might end up having to fight this guy. And maybe 6 months down the line, I get a call, you got a title shot, you're going to fight Tomasz Adamek. And I was just watching this guy fight on TV. Of course, I was nervous because I saw the guy, he was tough, he was strong. But I was young, and like I said, I was still coming into my own. I was still growing as a man, maturing. And in that fight, that night was just, I wasn't gonna let nobody stop me. I wasn't gonna let nobody beat me. Nobody could tell me I wasn't gonna win that fight. And I think I was the underdog in that fight. And I just went out there and I was myself. I was relaxed. I was calm, and I went out there and I put on a beautiful performance, and I became a world champion.
And like I say, what did it mean to you, Chad? Because there's a lot of guys that, have so much promise. As you say, you were the underdog. You took the title away from a champion like that who went on to move up in weight and become champion there as well. What did that mean to you at the time, if you can remember, being champ the first time?
Oh, it meant everything, but it's kind of funny because at that time, I was 24. I think I was 24. I was 24 at that time. And it meant everything to me, but it kind of didn't, because I know I had more. I know I had more in me, and I wanted to like at that time I wanted to be the best. I wanted to beat everybody. I wanted to fight the best. That's why I was fighting so many tough fights back to back, because I wanted to be the best. And from that night, it meant the world to me. But I think when I beat the biggest world title, the biggest win was when I beat Bernard. Though I think that was more bigger than anything. Yeah, but that was a special night for me, becoming a world champion, because that was something I always wanted to do, but to become a world champion. I remember as a little kid, telling people, I'm gonna be a world champion. I'm gonna be a world champion. People looking at me like, all right, okay. Writing stories in classroom, like in 5th grade, 6th grade. What are you gonna be when you grow up? I'm gonna be a professional boxer. I'm gonna be a world champion boxer. And just remember, and all that stuff starts to come back. You start to remember all those times you said that, I've spoken into existence, me becoming the world champion. So that was the best experience I got out of that. The fact that I spoke it into existence that I was going to be a world champion.
That's beautiful, man. So is it fair to say you always knew you'd become a world champion?
Yes, I did. I mean, I wasn't an outstanding amateur. I wasn't one of those amateurs that stood out. I wasn't, people didn't know about me until maybe after I was 15, 16-0. People started to open their eyes and be like, okay, who's this kid right here?
The Carl Daniels
people,
fight,
but people got to remember, in the Carl Daniels fight, I was a middleweight.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't even light heavyweight. I was a middleweight. So my I wanted to become a world champion at middleweight, but I started getting too big. I was when I fought Carl Daniels, I was only 21. So I was still growing, and I was still growing. I wanted to become a world champion at middleweight, but that didn't happen. So I had to move up to super middleweight. I had one fight, maybe 1 to 2 fights at super middleweight, and then I got too big for that. At one point, maybe over a span of 2 years, I just started putting on so much weight, gaining weight. I was still growing, and 2 fights at super middleweight, and I went straight into light heavyweight. Before I fought Tomasz Adamek, I only had I think 1 fight at light heavyweight.
Yeah, that is such a unbelievable fate, Your first defense of the title came on June 9th, 2007, so only 4 months after the Adamek win. It took place in Connecticut. You boxed Jesus Ruiz. Now, Ruiz supposedly had incredible punching power, but you were able to become the quickest man to knock him out when you did so in round 6. Tell me about that one, Chad.
He was definitely, so I definitely felt the power in his punch. But like I said, any great fighter, any good fighter knows that, when as a fighter, once you step into that realm of can nobody beat me, can nobody stop me, I feel like I'm the best. That confidence, it's a different type of confidence. At that time, nobody could beat me, and I mean that. I felt like there was nobody that could beat me. I felt like I was Floyd Mayweather at that time. I was the best. Even at that young age, even though I had so much more left in the tank, I just still felt like I was the best.
And your second defense of the title, again, only 3 months after that, September 29th in Cali, you boxed the Colombian Epifanio Mendoza, another big puncher. Another occasion in which you become the quickest man to knock your opponent out, this time round 4. Tell me about that one.
I knew of Mendoza. I knew of him. I've seen him fight a few times. But like I said, I mean, I was in shape. I was in great shape, and it was like I wasn't in all of my fights, every fight, but it was just a thing where I was the best. No, they couldn't beat me. I went out there that night, and I didn't expect to get rid of him that easy and that quick, but it happened. And like I said, I was just on top of my game, man. And like I said, any fighter could tell you this. Any great world champion could tell you this. When you step into that realm of where I'm the best, I mean, that's like mentally, physically. I mean, you can feel like you're invincible. I mean, and at that time, that's how I felt.
And now we move to your third defense. It came on April the 12th, 2008 in Tampa, Florida. You took a big step up with this defense. The former IBF light-heavyweight world champion Glen Johnson, a man with tons of experience. I mean, this guy at the time had beaten Clinton Woods, Roy Jones Jr., Antonio Tarver, Montel Griffin. You were able to beat him on points over 12. All three judges had the exact same scorecard.
Still to this day, the toughest fight of my career.
Okay, so
the toughest fight.
All three judges, 8 rounds to 4 in your favour. Tell me about that, because a lot of people felt this result was controversial, even with all three judges having the exact same scores.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So we knew it was going to be a tough fight. We knew that coming into the fight. We knew he was tough. We knew he was rugged. We knew he was a road warrior. We knew he was coming to fight. So our main thing, the whole training camp was the be in tip-top shape, to be ready to go 12 rounds, and we wanted to get an early lead on the scorecards. So that's why I came out so fast. I came out fast in that fight, and I wanted to get the first 5 or 6 rounds in my favor and win the first 5 or 6 rounds. And I pretty much feel like I did that. After the 6th or 7th round, I felt like I had a comfortable lead, but I knew I couldn't take my foot off the gas pedal. So Glen Johnson came. He was tough. He was strong. He pushed me. He pushed me harder than anybody ever pushed me. And I always tell people to this day that if I had never had that Glen Johnson fight, the first Glen Johnson fight, I don't think I would have ever matured into the fight I matured into. He took me through hell and high water. I never been hit with so many body shots. I think around the 10th, 11th round, that's when the body shots started to wear me down. But like I said, I was in our whole strategy for that training camp was to be in tip-top shape, ready to go 12 rounds. We wanted to get the jump on them in the early rounds and get a jump in and get six or 7 rounds in the bag early. I think I got 5 of them in the bag early. So, like after the 6th or 7th round, I knew I had to fight in the bag. I just had to stay in there and just finish strong, and I did that.
And shortly after the Johnson fight, you vacate the world title. Just before we move on to the next question, because I couldn't remember why you did that at the time. What was the reason behind that, Chad?
Oh, so the reason behind that was to get the Tarver fight.
Okay, yeah, that's
to get the Tarver fight. To get the Tarver fight, we were right after the first Glen Johnson fight, we wanted Tarver. Right after that fight, we wanted him, and unfortunately, we had, in order for me to get the Tarver fight, I had to give the WBC title. And I was willing to do that, and I did that, and I picked up 2 more titles in the Tarver fight.
Okay, and we arrived there right now. Your next fight came in Las Vegas against reigning IBF light heavyweight world champion at the time, Antonio Tarver. October 11th, 2008, you beat Tarver unanimously over 12. This was obviously the first of the 2 fights with Tarver. Tell me what you recall about this fight, the first fight, obviously the night you become a 2-time light heavyweight world champion, Chad.
Oh, it was a great night. I remember Floyd being there. So I remember Floyd being at the fight. I know I had to show out for Floyd. He was gonna be there. It's like I'm blessed and I'm grateful to have all the opportunities that I had. Being in the ring with legends, with great fighters, and that night, man, I was just in the zone. I was in tip-top shape. We wanted the Tarver fight for so long. When we finally got the fight, he pretty much talked his way into a loss, because he ran his mouth, he talked, and when you run your mouth, you gotta back it up. He wasn't able to back it up, so I went out there, I did what I had to do. Like I said, I was in tip-top shape, as I was for all my big fights, and when you're in great shape and you match that with your talent, nobody can beat you, and that was the case that night.
And then, as I say, there was the instant rematch against Antonio Tarver. This was your first defense of the title you'd taken from him. The fight takes place back in Las Vegas again, May 9th, 2009. Once again, you beat him unanimously over 12. Just tell us about the second fight in a few words.
Second fight, pretty much similar to the first fight. But So yeah, same fight. You know, he wasn't looking to get knocked out. You know, he was just in there. I felt like he was just in there to survive. He wasn't in there. He was in there. He didn't want to get hurt. He didn't want to. He was just in there to survive and get through the fight. And I beat him easily.
Yeah. And after that is when you have another rematch. This time though against Glen Johnson. November 7th, 2009 in Connecticut. I can hear you chuckling there, much like the first fight.
Yeah, because you know, I felt like at that time in my career, like I felt like the networks and everybody they were trying to get me beat. Mm-hmm. You know, I fought Glen Johnson twice, I fought Tarver twice. You know, they would put me up against all these big punchers. You know, they were I feel like they were at that moment they were trying to get me beat. You know, so. But I was always in shape. I was always ready. So, the second Tarver fight, easy, you know. I mean, like I said, I felt like at that time they were like, okay, we gotta try to get this kid beat now. So that's when they started, you know, stepping up the competition. So I mean, like I said, I'm grateful to have been in such great fights and fight great champions, and it got me far.
Yeah, because this second fight with Glen Johnson, I just wanted to say, if there was any controversy surrounding the first fight, this fight certainly closed the book on that Glen Johnson chapter. That was the plan. Just that was the plan. Tell me a few words about that fight, Chad, because it was more decisive, obviously, in everyone's eyes.
Yep. So the first fight, you know, it was pretty much a war. The first fight was a war. So definitely in the second fight, I didn't want a war. I wanted to go out there and I wanted to use my boxing skills and just outpoint him and beat him. And that's what I did. You know, I want to show everybody, because everybody thought, I'm going to say everybody, but a few people thought he might have got the win in Florida, which I didn't see. I didn't see that. When me rewatching the first fight, I didn't see how he thought he won that fight. But in the second fight, it was different because I wanted to go out and I wanted to clearly beat him. And that's what I did.
Yeah, you adapted, basically. You certainly did.
Yeah.
In order to have that rematch with Johnson, you had to vacate the IBF. So after beating Johnson in the rematch, you wanted to go get your titles back. You decided to go for the WBC title, which by this point was under the ownership of new champion Jean Pascal. You traveled to Montreal, Canada, August 14th, 2010. The fight ends in a technical decision after 11. A head clash caused the fight to be stopped. You served your first career loss. Tell me about that fight, Chad, and how it felt to lose for the first time.
Oh, I felt to lose for the first time. I mean, it was hard, but it wasn't that hard because, you know, it wasn't. I felt like in that fight, he definitely had the lead on the scorecard when the fight was ended, but the momentum I had, he wasn't going to make it out of the fight. The momentum I had, I was going to stop him. Eventually, I think it was the 11th round of the fight got stopped, but as you can see, I had just hit him with a devastating uppercut, and then the headbutt happened. But I definitely wasn't I wasn't too devastated about the loss. I just knew that I could have been better that night. I knew that I wasn't myself early on in the fight when the fight first started. The first 3 or 4 rounds, I wasn't myself. You know, it took me a little time to warm up to get to get a little rhythm going, and the fact that, you know, I was fighting out of the country in another person's backyard. You know, a lot of that played a little bit into it. You know, nervousness and, you know, fighting that was the biggest arena at that time that I had fought in. You know, and I'm not gonna lie, when I got to Canada, you know, the welcome was good. You know, the fans loved me. It was great. The environment was great. But I just didn't do what I had to do to win that fight that night. And he was ahead on the scorecard when the fight ended. You know, but like I said, he wasn't going to make it out of the fight. The fight was pretty much, I had told myself in coming out in the 11th round that I was going to stop him. And that's what I was on my way to do. But the headbutt happened, and, you know, he was ahead on the scorecard. He got the victory.
And you bounced back 9 months later, back at the same venue, the Bell Centre in Canada, against former WBC Light-Heavyweight world champion Adrian Diacono. You beat him unanimously over 12. Tell me about that night, obviously on the Pascal Hopkins 2 undercard, May 21st, 2011.
So that fight, that should have just showed people how hungry, how desperate I was to get my title back. You know, me going right back to the same place I lost to fight another Canadian in his backyard.
In your very next fight, which is a bit crazy.
In the very next fight, my very next fight. That just showed you the hunger I wanted. I wanted my title back. I wanted the WBC title back, and I was praying that Pascal beat Bernard, because I really wanted to fight Pascal. I wanted the rematch, but unfortunately he couldn't beat him. Bernard got the win, and he got the rematch, Bernard beat him again. So the rematch with me and Pascal never happened. But that was the fight I really wanted, to rematch with Pascal. But I got Bernard.
Yeah, and that's where we are. You won your fight against Diacono. Bernard Hopkins, as you say, beat Pascal in the main event. This set up the next fight. You took on Bernard for the WBC Light-Heavyweight World title. It takes place at the Staples Center in LA, October 15th, 2011. Obviously, the fight ends prematurely when Bernard couldn't continue after an accidental injury in round 2. Initially in the ring, they announced you as the winner, the new champion, by TKO. 5 days later, the commission changed the result to a technical draw. Then I believe 2 months after that, they finally changed it to a no contest, which meant, of course, that Bernard was reinstated as the champion after all. How do you look back on that whole bizarre scenario? You were mad as hell in the ring for good reason, Chad.
I was mad because, look, you work your whole career to get in positions like this, to fight for war titles, to fight against the best. And at the time, Bernard was considered still one of the best. And I was looking forward to the challenge, and then I'm going to be honest. I knew Bernard really didn't want to fight me. He wasn't looking forward to fighting me. He had no interest in fighting me, and that was just a way of him getting out of the fight. And hopefully, he could just move on with his career and forget about Chad Dawson. But unfortunately, it didn't happen like that. They ordered WBC ordered an immediate rematch, which I know he didn't want, but he got that. So, And Bernard, he's a legend. He's great. Of course, he's going to go down as a top 10, top 20 greatest fighters of all time. But in that night, you got to be honest, there was no shoulder injury. There was no dislocation. We never saw a doctor report, nothing like that. But like I said, he's a legend. But legend, he didn't do it. That wasn't what he did that night. Wasn't legendary.
No, that's fair enough. I was watching it. I was watching it back the other day. I was still looking for the shoulder injury.
No, there was no shoulder injury. There was no shoulder injury. I mean, my whole career, right? You say some fighters they're fighters that are scared of other fighters, right? Or fighters that intimidate other fighters, right? And I was that fighter that intimidated Bernard Hopkins. He was intimidated by me. I remember the press conference for the second fight. I remember him saying something crazy to me. It was like, we did the stare down, and the first thing he said to me was, there's no gangsters in Hartford, Connecticut. That right there told me that Bernard Hopkins he's scared, because I never said I was a gangster. I never wanted to be a gangster, and I'm not from Hartford, Connecticut. So I mean, that right there told me that he was just scared. He was in a place he didn't want to be. And the first fight he got out of it, but he couldn't get out of the second fight. So.
Yeah, I mean, you were the rematch king. 6 months later, you get the rematch, April 28th, 2012 in Atlantic City. You're able to beat Bernard. Go on.
And this is not like regular rematch. These are rematches against legends. Like they can't believe that I beat him. It was like, okay, I beat Glen Johnson the first time. He didn't really. We gonna do that again. Beat him again. Beat Tarver the first time. Oh, that must have been a mistake. We're gonna do that again. Did it again. Beat him. Same thing with B-Hop. So it's like, it was like, I felt like in some way they were like trying to get me beat. They couldn't believe how I kept winning these fights, building my legacy, getting better and better and better. But like I said, I had a stellar career, I had a great career. I love my career. I have nothing to hang my head on. I still consider myself one of the best fighters, that's done it, especially at the light heavyweight division. But that's for the fans. That's for the fans to decide. It's for the critics to decide. But to me, I don't hang my head on anything. I feel like I had a great career.
How did it feel, Chad, to become champion of the world for the third time and give Bernard some payback for those tricks he pulled in the first fight to keep the title?
Oh, it felt great. Yeah, it felt beautiful. It felt great. Just to get past that chapter, it felt good. Because after the first fight, this was like a year and a half. Something that went on for like a year and a half. So it's like I was just happy to get past it, move on, and and move on my career.
So 5 months later in Oakland, California, you moved down to 168 to fight the unified WBC and WBA super middleweight world champion Andre Ward. September 8th, 2012, you're down 3 times and were stopped in round 10. There were rumors that you'd been knocked out in sparring in preparation for the fight.
No,
Obviously,
that's a lie.
There were possible reasons like the weight cut perhaps that hampered your performance, or was it just that Andre Ward really was that good? Tell me.
No, this is the honest God truth. So, okay, I should have never took that fight at that weight. All right, that plain and simple. I should have never took the fight at that weight. I thought I could get down to 168, no problem. Fighting at light heavyweight, sometimes I was weighing in at 72, 73. And I was leaving camp, underweight before I got to the training camp. So I thought it wouldn't be a problem, but it became a problem maybe I would say 4 weeks into camp, 4 or 5 weeks into camp, it became a problem. Like, okay, the weight's not coming off fast enough. So in camp, it started in training camp with me trying to lose the weight. I had what's his name in for sparring?
Edison Miranda.
Edison Miranda. I had him in for sparring. He dropped me in sparring. He didn't knock me out. He dropped me. It was like a flash knock. I wasn't hurt. He dropped me. I got up. We finished the sparring. Great sparring. I got up, finished the sparring, continued to beat him up in sparring like I did the whole camp. And so that was a lie. I didn't get knocked out. And I got dropped in camp. I didn't get knocked out. But the weight problem, the weight was the problem. It was the weight, got to we got to California 4 days before the fight. 2 days before the fight, I think I was like 7 or 8 pounds over. The night before the fight, I went to bed like 5 pounds over. But we didn't know that the weight was going to be a problem, that much of a problem. But it became a headache when we got there. So of course, me, I'm not the type of person to be to cry and be like, oh, I'm not going to take the fight. I don't feel good. I didn't feel good the day of the fight. I was dehydrated. I just didn't feel good. But I went on with the fight anyway. Not to take anything away from Andre Ward. He fought a great fight. He did what he had to do. But that I just wasn't myself. That wasn't me that night. That wasn't Chad Dawson that night.
No, it didn't look to be.
No, that was not Chad Dawson. That was not me at all. But like I said, Ward did what he was supposed to do. He had a weak man in there, and he did what he had to do. He got me out of there. But that was not Chad Dawson that night. If that was the real Chad Dawson, the fight would have went a totally different way. And I believe that deep down in my heart. It wouldn't have been the same fight.
After that, you make the move back up in weight. You're still champion, of course, at 175. Yeah. You defend your WBC title in Canada back at the Bell Center against, at the time, one of the most fearsome punching contenders in any weight class in the world, Adonis Stevenson. Obviously, that night, Adonis announced himself to the world, a stunning first-round knockout. Yeah. I'm sure you probably hate talking about this fight, but just tell me what you can remember about it.
Like I said, I told you, I don't hate anything about my career.
Let me just finish this sentence, Chad, if it's all right. He seemed to obviously feint with the right jab and come over the top with a perfect overhand left. And just for the listeners, fun fact, Artur Beterbiev made his debut on the undercard that night. But yeah, carry on, Chad. Tell me about that fight.
Oh man, it was like at the back in enemy territory. There to lose like they wanted me to. So he caught me with a good punch. It was a good, devastating punch. Definitely the hardest punch I've ever been hit with. He's definitely a big puncher. But I felt like the fight was stopped prematurely. I beat the count, but the ref still insisted on stopping the fight. And that was a rematch I lobbied for right after that fight, but it never came to fruition. So,
do you think, Chad, sometimes, like the way a fighter goes down, can sometimes be misleading to the referee because, people go down hard, they can still get back up. For example, you saw Tyson Fury in the first fight with Wilder. He went, I've never seen anyone go down harder, and he still beat the count and obviously got up and was fine. Yeah,
I had a long career, so I've been in every situation in boxing. Like I know how to hold, I know how to buy time, I know how to do those things, but I didn't get the opportunity to do those things because I felt like the fight was stopped prematurely. So I didn't get a chance to, to even, defend my title. I was the champion that night. I could at least had the opportunity to at least finish the round, but I didn't get that opportunity, you know. And that goes back to the point where I make, like, you know, at that point I felt like Chad Dawson was just like, people felt like Chad Dawson was just done. Let's get rid of him, and that's it.
And after that, I'm going to just fly through this bit. Obviously, after that, you're out the ring for a year. You come back, you beat George Blades in a round. You become the quickest man to stop him. Then you lose a split over 10 to Tommy Karpensi. That was 2014.
Yeah.
Then you're out the ring for 14 months before coming back and beating Dion Savage over 10. That was 2015. In 2016, you had just the one fight, a knockout win in round 4 against Cornelius White. 2017, you boxed just one time again, a TKO loss in the 10th and final round to Fonfara. Then you're out the ring for 2 years and 3 months before returning with your final 2 wins, both on points, both unanimous, both over 8 rounds. The first against Quinton Rankin, the second against Denis Grachev. Those were your last 2 fights. They obviously both took place in 2019. Did you want to give a word on any of those fights I've flown through at all before we move on, Chad?
No. I mean, pretty much
what they were.
Everybody could put a conclusion to it. You know, pretty much that's pretty much the end of my career. You know, I'm 39 now. You know, I mean, those 2 fights. I mean, we fight just to get back in there. Hopefully, I'll get another big fight out of those 2 fights, but that never happened. So, you know, boxing's a new world now. It's new talent, you know, young guys, and everybody knows boxing's a young man sport. And you know, pretty much, you know, I'm here. You know, like I said, I had nothing. I felt like I had a great career, and I'm where I'm at right now.
So I didn't even notice, but you're officially retired, or you're half in, half out? Toughest question.
I'll say that's the toughest question. Yeah, 75 out, 25.
75 out. Okay. And I want to ask you this as well. You mentioned earlier on that there was a time you felt invincible when you were destroying Epifanio Mendoza and Jesus Ruiz. At what point did that invincible feeling leave you, and did it ever come back?
No. I mean, once you take a loss, you know, you're not invincible anymore.
Yeah, but did the loss to Jean Pascal take that invincibility away?
No, it didn't. It just the loss to Pascal just let me know that if I'm not on top of my game every night out, that, you know, you can't be invincible. And in the Pascal fight, I wasn't on my game that night. You know, it took me 4 or 5 rounds to get warmed up, to get everything going. So, and I lost that fight tonight. So I mean, I wasn't invincible that night. You know, like I said, nothing take away from Pascal, but he was just a better man that night.
And for a while, Chad, you trained under the legendary trainer Emanuel Steward. What was he like? I've spoke to a lot of people that's trained under him. Everyone speaks so highly of the man.
Yeah. Very, man. When I got the chance to work with him, it was because I worked with him. I think it was a year before he passed. Mm-hmm. The year before he passed. Yeah, it was a year before he passed that I had worked with him, and I'm gonna be honest. The whole time in training camp, I felt like it wasn't about boxing with me and him. You know, we would like really like sit down and have like conversations, not so much about boxing but about life. And I remember being in Canada for the Diakonu fight, and I remember after the weigh-in, we all went to go eat. And he came down with us to eat. You know, after the wedding, me and my family, you all go sit down and eat. Maybe like 20 of us would go sit down, get a table, eat. And he came to sit with us and eat with us. And I had my wife with me, my kids. You know, we were all sitting there eating. And I remember we were talking, and he was telling me how, you know, he loves the way I am with my kids and my wife, and how I'm a family man. And I literally sitting at the table, like he started crying, like tears coming out of his eyes, like he was like choked up, you know, like I don't know, like he was trying to like. I don't know, but that's the fondest memory I have of him, just sitting at the table and watching tears come out of his eyes, talking about, you know, how important it is to be a family man and to raise your kids and stuff like that. So like I said, being in training camp with him, I didn't feel like it was about boxing. I felt like it was more about, you know, he was trying to, you know, show me and teach me, you know, what it is to be a man. I mean, it was great that I got to work with him the time I did. It was unfortunate he passed, like literally like I think a year and a half after I had worked with him. But, you know, he's definitely special, definitely knew everything, just about everything about boxing. You know, he taught me, you know, I'm not saying he taught me, but he tried to teach me, you know, some power punching. You know, how to punch through the target, not at the target, punch through the target. You know, those are the things I remember. But it was definitely a great time with him. Great memories. I'll never forget that. So.
Yeah, that's a brilliant memory, man. He obviously admired you a lot. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. I remember just sitting there, man, and my wife looking at me like he's crying. I'm like, oh man, because we were really like I said, it wasn't with me and him. It wasn't about boxing. I felt like it wasn't about boxing. Man. He was just trying to teach me, like, show me what it is to be a man. Like, he wasn't really teaching me much about boxing. He was just like, yo, Chad, like, I like how you are with your family and your kids, man. Keep it up, and yeah, so.
That's amazing, man. And these next few questions are pretty much quick-fire questions. We're going to whiz through these. I wanted to ask who you felt in your entire career was the biggest puncher you ever faced. I'm guessing it's probably Adonis.
Yeah, Adonis Stevenson, man. I've never. Let me tell you something about that fight. I was in the best shape of my life for that fight. I mean, after the Ward fight, I felt like I had something to prove on my comeback after the Ward fight. I was still the world champion. I felt like I had a lot to prove. So I trained my butt off for that fight, man. I did even more than I ever did in any one of my training camps. More than my body was looking crazy. You know, I was eating right. I was doing everything the right way. And unfortunately, when I got out there that night, you know, that one punch ended the fight. But he definitely the hardest punch I ever been hit with. And hats off to him. You know, he became the world champion that night.
And I'm intrigued to see what you say to this one, but who's the best all-round fighter you ever faced? I thought you might have said Andre Ward, but now okay. I didn't think you'd say
Andre Ward. Andre Ward. I talk to people about this all the time. Like, I tell them, like, people, what was it like fighting Andre Ward? Was he the toughest guy you fought? No, he's not the toughest guy I fought. He wasn't the toughest. He wasn't the biggest puncher. He was just, he's a smart guy. He's a smart fighter. Like, even to this day, I watch Bernard Hopkins. I mean, I watch Andre Ward fight right now. I watch all his highlights. I sit down and I watch things that he do still right now. Like, I watch his highlights. And I like the stuff that he does. You know, he could pull a jab off with the right hand and then counter you with the same hand. Things like that he does. That he's a tricky fighter. Yeah. He's tricky, very, very, very aware in the ring. He knows what's going on at all times. You know, when I fought him, you know, I wasn't myself that night, and I remember very little parts of the fight, but I do remember how ring savvy he was, and how smart he was, and how brilliant he was, and how calculated he was when he threw his punches, and where he always made sure he was in the right position when he punched. So that's one thing I remember. Andre Ward is the best fighter I fought, hands down. I mean, the smartest fighter I fought.
And I want to ask your personal favorite win of all your wins.
Personal favorite, Bernard Hopkins.
And that's the second, obviously, the second, of course.
Yeah, the second one,
the first. What was I talking about?
That's the most satisfying win I got is the win over Bernard Hopkins.
And I want to ask you this as well. Was there anyone that you wish you'd have had the chance to fight, but it just never ended up happening?
Yeah, Roy Jones Jr.
That's the one guy?
No, it's two guys. Okay. Joe Kawasaki and Roy Jones Jr.
Okay. Were they ever close to happening at any point, Chad?
I think the Kawasaki fight was being talked about, and then he retired. He retired I think about maybe 6-7 months after that. I think it was being talked about. We were talking about it, and then he retired after I think it was a Roy Jones Jr. fight.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, was it? I can't even remember myself. You put me on the spot.
I think it was either him or Bernard. Was it one? He retired after one of those fights.
Yeah. Okay, and I want to ask you this as well. I ask this to everyone. Do you have any regrets? If you could go back in time, would you change anything or do anything differently?
Yeah, I would have did a lot different.
I hate hearing that answer. I like it when people say no. I got no regrets. But go on, tell me what are some of your regrets.
I mean, when it comes to my personally my career, I don't have any regrets. But when it comes to like the business part and like the management part, the promoter part, just knowing who's who, and knowing people's motives, and knowing, you know, that everybody doesn't have your best interest at heart, and knowing that boxing is only about $1, and everybody's just trying to make a buck off the next fighter. You like the thing I wish I would did different. I wish I would have had better, smarter people in my corner, more loyal people in my corner. Because at the end of the day, you know, like when I fought Adonis Stevenson, when I lost that fight, when I got knocked out that night, I remember going back to the hotel room by myself. You know, promoter was gone. I never saw the promoter again after that fight. Never talked to him again. So the manager, nobody. So it shows you how the sport is. Yeah. No, it's a true story. The night after I fought Adonis Stevenson got knocked out, I never heard from Gary Shaw again. Ever. Never talked to him on the phone. Never received a letter from him. Nothing. Never ever heard from him again.
I remember speaking to a fighter. I want to say, I think it might have been Lehman Brewster, and I remember he was telling me a story about he had like a best friend from like kindergarten or whatever. They've been friends forever, and he came to one of his fights. I think he lost his heavyweight world title in one of the fights.
Yeah.
And he's never to this day seen the friend again. It was 20 years ago or more.
Yeah.
Now, you know. It's
yeah, man. Look,
incredible.
there's a lot of lessons to be learned. You know, from stuff like that. So, I mean, you just gotta like Gary Shaw. He was good to me in the beginning. You know, then towards the end, that's when he started. You know, but like I said, I never heard from that guy again. Never lost that fight. Didn't see him in the airport. Didn't see him the next morning. Didn't see him after the fight. He didn't come to my dressing room. I never heard from him again.
Wow. I want to ask you this as well, Chad. You say you're kind of like 75% out of boxing, 25% in. What are you doing with your time with that 75%? What keeps you busy? What gets you out of bed every morning?
Oh, working with other fighters, training fighters.
Okay.
Not training fighters. I love kids. So I work with kids. You know, I got a lot of kids that got anger problems and stuff like that. So I try to like focus on those kids. You know. Because I was the same type of kid, you know, so I try to focus on kids like that, kids that, you know, need like emotional support and things like that. So those are the type of kids I work with. And I think that boxing is a great way for them to express themselves. So that's what I do.
That's a beautiful thing, man. Good for you, Chad.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you as well, this is important, this question. Are you happy? Are you happy with the way things turned out? Are you a happy man in 2021?
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy. I'm married. I got 4 kids, 4 sons. I'm happy, man. I'm happy. You know, I had a great career. There's pretty much, you know, where I'm from. I'm the first world champion to come out of my city. So no hating, first and last. So there's been a few that tried, but you know, I'm not gonna hang my head on anything. You know, I had a great career. You know, hopefully people start to recognize that. And I get celebrated more, because like now I feel like I'm celebrated enough, or I'm not even talked about right now. So, but you know, I'm happy. I'm happy with my life. I'm happy.
Well, you talked about on this podcast, my friend. I admire you. I think you've had a sensational career, and quite clearly, even after boxing, you're a very good human being. You talked about what you're doing with kids there. Emanuel Steward saw it in you. You should be proud of yourself, my friend. I'm happy that you're happy.
Thank you.
And just finally, my final question for you, really, I'm going to put you on the spot a tiny bit. Favourite UK fighter, Chad? Any era? The listeners here in the UK love to hear the answers to this. Who springs to mind?
Any era. Any era.
I should have gave you a little warning.
I'll have to go with Joe Kawasaki.
Joe Kawasaki, okay. Yeah, that's a popular answer. We hear Prince Nassim Hamed come up a lot. But yeah.
Prince Nassim Hamed, oof. Yeah. I love watching that guy though. But I'm gonna have to give it to Joe Kawasaki.
Okay, that's absolutely
he was just a brilliant fighter, man. He had speed, power, everything. I mean, I was at the fight. I fought on the undercard when he fought Jeff Lacey.
Jeff Lacey.
I was on the undercard. Yeah, I was on the undercard that night.
Yeah, I was gonna say I knew that. Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah, I was on the undercard, and I remember like, whoa. Oof, that means fast, strong. Oof. But yeah.
Okay. And just finally, Chad, if you've got a closing message just to anyone that's listening, the UK fans as well, like you say, you boxed in Manchester on the Kawasaki Lacey undercard. You've got fans over here. What's your message before we let you go?
Oh, nothing, man. Just I'm doing good, and I'm out here. I'm working with fighters. Hopefully, you'll see me on the scene working with a big fighter one day. You know, I'm looking to build my resume as a trainer. Hopefully soon. just look out for me. I'll be back around soon.
Absolutely. And listen, Chad, I just want to thank you for walking down memory lane with me. I also want to thank you for your time. I wish you the absolute best with the future, and I hope we can speak again soon one day.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part of the show. We're going to start here with the fact that Claressa Shields has signed a multi-fight 7-figure deal with Sky Sports and Boxer. She's going to be, of course, fighting on December 11th in Cardiff. That's going to be her first fight in the UK, of course, and she's taking on Emma Kozin, who boasts a record of, I think she's unbeaten, I believe. Can't remember her record right now, but I think Savannah Marshall was supposed to be on that card as well, and she's had to pull out with an illness, I believe it is, or a slight injury, so she's off that card. It's a shame. It would have been good to see both ladies box on the same night, but no, Savannah is off the card once again, so Claressa Shields' fight will go ahead. It's a mandatory defense as well for her WBC middleweight world title. There's a card that's been announced in York Hall. It's an MTK show. It's going to be Friday, December the 3rd. We have Danny Dignam on the card, Isaac Lowe and Charlie Edwards finally making a ring return. Of course, Charlie now being trained by Joe Gallagher up in Bolton. We've got a fight that's been announced as well, December 18th on Saturday, December the 18th there. We've got David Morrell Jr., the guy who has a record, I think, of about 4-0. It's for the WBA Super Middleweight World title. He takes on friend of the show, Alontes Sly as a Fox. Really looking forward to that one there. I guess in some ways it could even be a last chance saloon there for Alontes Fox. I remember him getting blasted out by Liam Williams, and he's managed to find his way into a world title shot. Very pleased for him. Very, very pleased for him. Good friend of mine is Alontes Fox. Badu Jack will be out as well. He's going to be fighting on, I think it's November 26th in Dubai. I'm not sure there's an opponent that's been announced for that fight just yet, but it's going to be a card promoted by Probellum there in Dubai. Obviously, we're going to be talking about it in a moment, but Murodjon Akhmadaliev was supposed to be taking on Ronnie Rios this weekend. Ronnie Rios has pulled out due to COVID, and in steps Jose Velasquez. We will talk about that in more depth in a few moments' time. Katie Taylor's opponent has been announced for her fight that's taking place on December 11th. She now takes on Firuza Sharipova. Again, that's on the Conor Benn Chris Algieri card in Liverpool. Once again on DAZN, Saturday, December 11th. I think it's a mandatory for the WBA of Katie Taylor there. Firuza Sharipova, not a bad fighter, I don't think, from what I'm hearing. Haven't seen her fight though, I'll be honest there. And also Lee McGregor has signed with Probellum. Probellum seem to be snapping up many people. Thomas Delorme sending a letter to the Nevada State Athletic Commission trying to dispute his result against Jaron Ennis. He's trying to say he was rabbit punched and that the result should turn into a no contest. That's an interesting one there. Jason Cunningham, the European champion, obviously having a fantastic 2021, beating Gamal Yafai and last time out beating Brad Foster. He is signed with Queensbury, so that's good there. He's signed with Frank Warren. And that's about it though for the news at the moment. If anything else develops from now to the end of the show, I will speak about it at the very end. Moving on then to the preview part of the show, we're going to start here with a card that takes place tomorrow night in Sweden. We've got Anthony Yigit, 24-2 with a draw in an 8-rounder against Miroslav Serban, who's 13-7. Moving out now to the SNHU Arena in New Hampshire, USA. Over here, as I said, Murodjon Akhmadaliev 9-0, defending his IBF and WBA World Super Bantamweight titles. He's always really good to watch, Murodjon Akhmadaliev. If anyone is listening to me that hasn't seen him box, very exciting fighter. I remember his tremendous fight with Daniel Roman, where he dethroned Daniel Roman. 9-0, 7 KOs, gets in with late replacement Jose Velasquez, 29-6 with 2 draws. Velasquez On a bit of a run, hasn't lost a fight since 2016. He's put together a lot of wins in that time, mostly by knockout, and yeah, it's a big step up, really. I mean, I don't expect him to win. I don't expect him at this stage of his career to be able to pull off anything spectacular against someone like Akhmadaliev. But yeah, 32 years of age, Velasquez. As I said, he's racked up a few losses. They were early on in his career. I give him that, but I don't think he's really on that kind of level. That's my honest opinion there. On the undercard, Julio Cesar Martinez, 18-1, gets in with McWilliams Arroyo, 27-4. That one is for Martinez's WBC flyweight world title. Demetrius Andrade, 30-0, defending his WBO middleweight title against Jason Quigley, 19-1. I don't give Jason Quigley a chance in this fight at all. I think Andrade will actually put it on Quigley and get the stoppage, and I don't say that about every Andrade fight. Both guys have been on the show before. Andrade's been on a few times. Quigley, I think, only been on once. Both guys friend of the show, though. Made a best man win, but I think the best man is Andrade by quite some distance. I remember Jason Quigley's last fight when he took on Shane Mosley Jr. Eddie. I think we both saw it. I don't think he's got much of a chance here against Andrade.
Yeah, I gotta agree with that.
Elsewhere on the card, Callie Reese, 18-7 with a draw, takes on Jessica Kamara, 8-2. That one is for the WBA, vacant WBO, and the IBO World Super Lightweight titles. Kamara has no belts, but Callie Reese has two of those, as I say, the WBA and IBO. This fight here really is only exciting from my point of view because the winner takes on Chantel Cameron for all the belts. We saw Chantel in a tremendous fight a few weeks ago against Mary McGee. I think Callie Reese will probably have a little bit too much experience for Jessica Kamara. I think Callie Reese against Chantel Cameron for all the belts is a good fight. Elsewhere on the undercard, Australia's Dempsey McKean, who's 19-0 with 12 KOs, a 6'6" southpaw heavyweight, takes on Don Hainsworth from New York. Don Hainsworth coming off 4 losses in a row now, but he is a guy who either will knock you out or get knocked out, so doubt it's going to be interesting really, but it's worth mentioning. Moving out now to the Universum Gym in Hamburg, Germany. Over here we've got Avni Yildirim, 23-4, taking on Yusuf Kangwell, who is 20-4 with a draw. That one is over 10. Jeremias Ponce as well on the undercard, 28-0, the guy that beat Lewis Ritson. I believe that's the same guy. He gets in with Michael Marcano, who's 22-4 with a draw. We've also got Senad Gashi on the card as well, 21-3 in with Jairo Diaz, who's 6-7. And a heavyweight to keep an eye on, by the way. It's for the vacant WBC International Silver Heavyweight title, but Zan Kosabutsky, 16-0 with 15 KOs. He's in with an undefeated fighter here, an undefeated fighter by the name of Alexis Garcia, who is 11-0 in his own right. I've been told about this Kosabutsky for a while. Haven't seen much of him as a pro, to be honest, but I like what I'm hearing. I'm hearing good things. Southpaw, 6'3", so on the small side. But, he's beaten a couple of decent fighters. He's a guy that last time out stopped Joey DeWaco. That was back in August. I remember that one there. He's been in there and knocked out Kamil Sokolowski. Not many people are able to knock him out. And other than that, he's boxed a fairly decent level of opposition, especially coming through early on. And yeah, he gets in with Alexis Garcia. Like I say, 11-0, 7 KOs from the Dominican Republic. He hasn't boxed anywhere near the kind of same level of opponents as Kosabutsky. I don't know. We'll see. Should probably not go the distance, but could be interesting. That's it for Germany. Moving out now to Ukraine at the AKO International. Over here, we've got Artem Dalakian, who's 20-0 in a 12-rounder, defending his WBA flyweight world title against Luis Concepcion, who's 39-8 these days. Artem Dalakian has been grossly inactive, to be honest with you. I even thought he'd lost his world title through inactivity. He's been a world champion since, I believe it was 2018, I think it was, early 2018. Since then, he's had 4 defenses, 2 in 2018, 1 in 2019, 1 in 2020. Hasn't boxed for over a year and a half. He's still champion though, and he gets in with Concepcion, who I would say really is at the back end of his career now. You know, I remember him losing to Andrew Maloney, losing to Cal Yafai as well, I think, at one point. So that one takes place in Ukraine. Moving out now to the Wembley Arena. This one takes place on Saturday, of course, on Sky. We have Hosea Burton, 26-2 in a 12-rounder for the British light heavyweight title, the vacant title, against Dan Aziz of Lewisham, 14-0. Could be interesting. The only thing is, Hosea Burton, since I think losing, I want to say it was the Frank Buglioni fight. Since then, he hasn't really looked the same, to be honest with you. And when he lost to Ricards Bolotniks in Latvia, I was stunned because I thought he would beat Bolotniks quite easy, and you know, Bolotniks battered him really, and he's just, I don't know what it is, but he's just kind of fallen off the wagon a little bit. You know, there was a period of time where he, for me, was right up there with the best light heavyweights in the country. I had him, like up there with the likes of your Johnsons, your Yards, your Lyndon Arthurs, all those guys. You know, I thought at one point perhaps he could even beat some of those guys, but yeah, it seems like, I don't know, he's not as good as perhaps I thought, or something's slipped. I don't know what it is, but it's a really, really good domestic level fight here against Dan Aziz. Dan Aziz with a lot of promise. Everyone's talking about his bright future, still unblemished with a perfect 14-0. Could be a great, great fight. I'll be certainly tuned into that one. On the undercard, Florian Marku, 9-0 with a draw. Questionable win last time out. He needs a convincing one here. It's an 8-rounder against Jorik Lusetto, who's 11-2. She was supposed to be making her debut on the card, but unfortunately she's been pulled out through illness. Caroline Dubois, the sister of Daniel Dubois, she won't be making her pro debut, but in steps though as a late replacement, Natasha Jonas. I'm not sure if they've got an opponent for her just yet, but she gets on the card, so women's boxing will be on this card. We've got Mikel Lawal as well, 14-0 in a 10-rounder against Stephen Ward, 13-1. The fight was supposed to take place earlier on this year, but not sure why it fell through. It's back on. And as well, a huge step up here. Richard Briakpour, 12-0, stepping up massively against Olam Rawaju Duradola, who's 36-8. Duradola, I think about 44 years of age now, but boy, oh boy, can he punch. He can also get knocked out himself, so he's always fun to watch, I guess. Haven't seen loads and loads of him, but I know he knocked out the Russian Hammer, then got knocked out himself in the rematch, so he is fun. It's for the vacant WBC Silver Cruiserweight title. It's a massive step up. Briakpour didn't look too great last time out, I've got to say so, and this could be dangerous, man. He's taking on a true puncher here, certainly the biggest puncher he'd have ever been in with by some margin. Moving out now to the Mecca in Regent Circus Swindon in Wiltshire, United Kingdom. Over here we have son of former world champion Lee Haskins, Anton Haskins, 2-0 in a 4-rounder against Jamie Quinn, 118-2. We also have topping the bill Luke the Duke Watkins, friend of the show, 15-2 in a 6-rounder against Yassin Habachi, who's 5-14 with 5 draws. Moving out now to the Manuel R. Time Community Center Theater in Miami, Florida. Over here we have topping the bill Uniel Dalticos, 24-2 in a 10-rounder against Jesse Bryan, who's 20-5 with 2 draws. Jesse Bryan, a heavyweight. I think he a heavyweight, might now be a cruiserweight, I don't know. I'm sure it's the same guy, but I think he had a career where he fought a few times, lost, then I want to say stepped out of pro boxing for a few years, then came back, and he's not fantastic. I mean, Dalticos being a top level cruiserweight should be way too much for Jesse Bryan, who again I think he's up there in age. And talking about up there in age, boy oh boy, Marco Antonio Barrera, 67-7, taking on Daniel Ponce de Leon, 45-7. I cannot believe this one's going ahead. It's taking place at the Inn of the Mountain Gods in New Mexico, USA. It's only a 6-round contest. I mean, boy, oh boy. I'm not even sure how old these two guys are. I just want to check that now, to be honest with you. The combined age must almost be about 100. I think Marco Antonio Barrera, 47, and Daniel Ponce de Leon is... I mean, he hasn't boxed for 7 years, by the way, and his last win was 8 years ago, just over 8 years ago. How old is Daniel Ponce de Leon? I'm not sure. But anyways, they shouldn't be in a ring. It is dangerous. I'm happy to see it's only 6 rounds. God, it should only be about 1 round. But yeah, the two old guys getting it on there. Moving out now, though, to the final card. In fact, before we get on to the final card, I told you about this, Eddie, already, so it's not going to be as funny. But years ago, people that have listened to the show for years, they would remember that we used to do something that was called a Funny Name Fighter segment. For those that don't remember what that is, it was where I would find the funniest name I could find that's fighting that particular week. So I was scrolling through, looking at all the fights, and there's a fight that's taking place in India involving an Indian fighter, and he has a tremendous name. It's been a while since we did this, but like I say, people that's been listening for years will remember we once found a guy in China called Cho Kon Dong. It was a perfect name. One of the best names I've ever seen, actually. And now I found this one here, a guy from India with a record of 7-2. In a 6-rounder. In fact, do you know what? It's a woman, Eddie. It's not even a guy. It's a woman.
What?
It's a woman, which makes me think a whole nother thing. Some guys might be into this, but anyways, the lady's name is Rammandeep.
I forgot that it was deep. I was about to say, it's unfortunate. That's a crazy name.
Eddie, when I first saw that name, Rammandeep, I was thinking of maybe like a heavyweight Indian, very hairy, a bit of a kind of moustache going on, but I found out it's a woman, so now it's got all other kinds of images in my head, actually, with exterior devices. We shall leave it there.
That's cool, but that is very interesting. That is a very interesting name. I guess in their culture it's maybe normal. I guess.
Are you speaking about her name or the action of? I'm joking.
I think both.
Yeah, so all the best there to Rammandeep. And going on to the final card to mention, it takes place at the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada, USA, for the WBO World Welterweight title. We have in one corner Terence Bud Crawford, obviously defending his title against Sean Porter. Terence Crawford 37-0, Sean Porter 31-3 with a draw. I'm going to just mention the undercard really briefly, actually. We've got Isaac Dogbay, former world champion, friend of the show, 22-2, getting in with Christopher Diaz, 26-3. We also have on the card Zanibek Alim Kanuli, I always mess up his name, 10-0, obviously last time out beat former world champion Rob Brandt. Now he's getting in with Hassan and Dam, 38-5. Friend of the show is Hassan and Dam for the WBO global middleweight title. You'd have to favour Alim Kanuli. We've also got Esquiva Falcao, who is a Brazilian fighter, 28-0, 20 KOs. Last time out was able to knock out Artur Akavov, who, to be honest with you, I mean, he didn't knock him out, he retired on his stall, but that's a big win because Akavov had been in there with Billy Joe Saunders. He couldn't get him out of there. He'd been in there with Demetrius Andrade. He got him out of there in what was the worst stoppage I've ever seen in the 12th and final round. There was only 25 seconds left in the fight. There's no way it should have been a knockout. And this guy stopped him. So he's quite a good fighter. I think he was a medalist or whatever in the Olympics, maybe. Silver medalist in the Olympics in 2012. He's been at the worlds and all that. He had a fight with Anthony Ogogo once upon a time. So he's a really good, well-scored fighter. But he gets in with Patrice Volney, who's 16-0, undefeated from Canada with 10 KOs. Yeah, that might be one to watch. But yeah, let's just go straight on to the main event. It's a tremendous fight, Eddie. Terence Crawford, some people I'm seeing are actually picking Porter to win. I can't see that. But some people are saying it's the biggest test of Crawford's career. We'll talk about that in a second. Some people saying that, is he going to be able to deal with the precision, the punching of Crawford? Will Porter be able to deal with that precision, with that accuracy? And it makes me remember that time when it still baffles me how it happened, but Sean Porter holds that amateur win over Alexander Usyk, the reigning heavyweight champion of the world. Tell me about the fight, though. Terence Crawford and Sean Porter, Eddie.
For Crawford, I think it is, and I agree with most that think it's going to be his toughest test. The only way I see this fight going completely his way and just one-way traffic is if he catches him and hurts him and, puts him in a situation where he can't recover or just gets him out of there quick. I just don't see how anyone, to be honest, can really keep Sean Porter off him for 12 rounds without, catching him with a good shot and, like I said, putting him on in a crazy situation. I see the fight as being extremely rough one for Crawford. Although I do think he will pull it off. You know what I'm saying? I think he has what it takes and he has the ability. I think he'll eventually get enough separation as far as with distance throw his shots. You know what I mean? I think he has enough pop where he's going to get more respect from Sean Porter than maybe most would get out of him. And the switching and different things that he does will put him in in different positions where he can land some nice shots. But I still think that Sean Porter, no matter what, is just he's gonna be in his face. He's gonna make it a rough one. He's gonna make it as hard as he's ever had at this point as a professional. He's gonna struggle some at certain points, and this is where we get a chance to see if Terence Crawford is going to be a master at making the adjustments, things that all great fighters have to do. You know what I mean? Especially at that high level like that, because Sean Porter, once the fight gets to the middle rounds, he's still going to be there. Most likely, he's still going to be throwing punches. He's still going to be roughhousing you. He's still going to be in your face, and you got to be able to figure out what's gonna, what adjustment you need to make if there need be. You know what I'm saying? And if it doesn't, how do you stay the course? Even with all the pressure that he's bringing, you got to be able to do that at that level. I think he can, and I think that's how he's going to win the fight. But make no mistake, Sean Porter's going to be there. And he's definitely going to give him everything he ever asked for in a fight.
Yeah, it's a cracking fight. I cannot wait to see it. The clash of styles is very interesting. Obviously, Sean Porter always the same way. He puts on the pressure. I remember there was a few fights where he opted to box and it just didn't work. I think he tried that against Danny Garcia for a few rounds and he let Danny Garcia have a good start because of that. And then he went back to his original his original tactics. I've always said he's like a pit bull. I remember him, the way he fought Andre Berto. He's right on your chest, doesn't give you space to breathe. And it's going to be interesting to see how Crawford can deal with that style. I think obviously Crawford wins. I think Crawford is obviously very accurate, doesn't miss a lot. I think the fact he can switch hit is very, very, very useful against someone like Sean Porter. He's got good feet, good judge of distance, good counter punching ability. All of these things work in Terence Crawford's favour, but Sean Porter always in a fight, as you say, he's definitely going to still be there, the midway point. Will Terence Crawford become the first man to knock Sean Porter out? Terence Crawford has got all wins by knockout since moving up to 147. It's amazing the way he's transitioned from 135 to 147 like this. I mean, oh boy, he is right up there. You know, some people want to say Canelo's pound for pound number one. It's a toss-up, in my opinion, between Crawford and Canelo. But yeah, should be a great fight. I'm intrigued to see how he deals with his style, but I think he wins, and he wins well. I think he wins well. It's another measuring stick kind of fight. I want to see how close Sean Porter can make it, because he had a real close one with Errol Spence, you know, a real close one. And if we're not going to see Spence and Crawford in the ring together, then we need to take opportunities like this to see who dealt with that opponent better. And this is a great measuring stick fight. We're going to see how he deals with the pressure of Sean Porter, who, you know, is fixed set, is going to put it right on him. He's going to be stronger than Crawford. It's going to be very interesting. But like I said, I think the more accurate, the more crisper, better boxing IQ all round really is Terence Crawford. So I'm picking him for the win. It's obviously going to go late, or will go to points. Be interesting. If he does stop him, what a statement that is. God almighty, that's a huge statement. If he stops him, that's amazing. To think that Usyk lost to him in the amateurs, you know, Errol Spence couldn't stop him. Yeah, that'll be tremendous. But that wraps up the preview part of the show, though. The final thing for me to do just before we wrap this up completely is to come in with the outro, which I'll do in just a few seconds. Okay, and this wraps up episode 318 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A huge thank you to our special guest on this week's podcast, the former IBF, two-time WBC, Lineal, and Ring Magazine Light-Heavyweight Champion of the World, Chad Dawson. The biggest thanks of all, though, goes out to you, the listeners. There has been one piece of news break whilst we've been recording the show. PBC have announced a card for January the 1st in Hollywood, Florida, containing a bunch of heavyweights. The main event's going to be Luis Ortiz against Charles Martin, the two top tier heavyweight southpaws getting it on there, both bangers as well. That's going to be a good fight, I think. On the undercard as well, we get to see Frank Sanchez get in there with Carlos Negron. We also get to see the rematch between Michael Polite Coffey and Jonathan Rice, the guy that upset him, and as well we get to see Gerald Washington get in with Demarizen, who is a guy that lost his O to Effie Ajagba on points, I think, a couple years ago. Should be great fights there. Finally, I just want to say, remember to visit manscaped.com and use the promo code BOXHARD for 20% off and free shipping. Believe me, the stuff they sell on there is absolutely fantastic. Do not miss out. But that's about everything from myself. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we shall see you all again next week.